And here in the Military with Summary channel. In this video, we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And of course, the most important update is that, according to pro-Russian sources, according to the Minister of Foreign Affairs Sergei Lavrov, according to Ushakov, special aide of Putin, according to Putin himself, according to the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, during the previous 24 hours, between the 28th and the 29th of December of 2025, Ukrainians attacked the Novgorod region, where most likely the Putin was located. So this is the statement that was made by the Minister of Defense. Between December 28th and 29th, the air defense systems of the Russian Federation repelled an attack by Ukraine using and during this attack, Ukrainians used 91 attack drones on the residence of the President of the Russian Federation in Novgorod region. So this is a very important piece of news, and this is not just about Ukraine and not just about the Russian Federation, and of course this is not just about the situation when Ukrainians launched drones in the direction where most likely the President of the Russian Federation was located. So this is not about this. This is not about an assassination attempt from Ukrainian side. The thing is much worse than you can even imagine. So I will try to explain to you what exactly the Russians are trying to tell us by all these statements. Before we start, let's discuss the most important statements that were made by Russia's authorities. For example, the Minister of Foreign Affairs stated that last night Kiev attempted to attack Putin's residence in the Novgorod region with drones. All drones were destroyed. Kiev launched the attack during intense negotiations between Russia and the United States of America to resolve the conflict. Such reckless actions by Kiev will not go unanswered. The targets for retaliatory strikes and the timing of their implementation by the Russian armed forces have been determined. Russia does not intend to withdraw from the negotiations with the US over Ukraine amid Kiev's attacks. Another important statement was made by Ushakov, special aide of the Russian Federation. He stated that Trump was shocked and outraged by the Ukraine armed forces attack on Putin's residence. Thanks God we didn't give Kiev tomahawks. That was stated by the President of the United States of America, and that was said by this person, by Ushakov. The drone attack on Putin's residence took place virtually immediately after the US-Ukraine talks at Mar-a-Lago. Putin has held 17 meetings and many other different things. So this is the position of the Russia's authorities. Another important thing, let's discuss once again the statement that was made by the President of the United States of America also on this matter. Trump on the attack on Putin's residence. Putin told me about it early in the morning. He said he was under attack. This is bad. This is very bad. Remember, I stopped the tomahawks. So this is the situation. So, from this perspective, if, for example, you don't understand the situation, things that are taking place behind the scene, we see the following. Ukrainians, during the special military operation, during the war with the Russian Federation, decided to launch 91 drones in the direction of a place where most likely or approximately the President of the Russian Federation was located. So this is the war, and of course, this is something that can be expected at least from any side of the conflict. So it's basically we can say that maybe this is from some perspective, this is even a normal situation. But there is one important thing, and to understand this important thing, we need to understand how exactly the things were developing. First of all, it's better to rewind back again updates from the 29th of December. And if you remember, Zelensky arrived at Florida and he had a meeting with the President of the United States of America. And the most important thing is that first, before this meeting, right before Trump met Zelensky, he called Putin, and later the President of the United States of America made this statement that I just had a good conversation, a good and very productive telephone call with President Putin of Russia prior to meeting at 1 p.m. today with President Zelensky of Ukraine. The meeting will take place in the main dining room, and later he added, the President of the United States of America, that he told Putin that after this meeting he would call Putin back. So this is the most important statement. So first, Trump called Putin, and during this call he told Putin that I would call you back in an hour or in 2 hours or in 3 hours. So, which means that he asked the president of the Russian Federation to stay online and to stay basically at the same place where the president of Russia was located. Right after this, let's say, article, he met with Zelensky, and there was an open part of this conversation. Then there was a part below the closed doors, and many other different things. Then they came to press and made lots of statements. And just today, by the evening of the 29th of December, we found out, and pro-Russian sources reported that right after Zelensky and Trump finished their conversation, or the first part of conversation, Ukraine launched dozens of drones in the northern direction with the purpose maybe to attack the place where the president of the Russian Federation was located. So once again, this is not about this attack. This is not about attack from Ukrainian side. You need to understand that the information about the location of the president of the Russian Federation is a secret information. Nobody in the world knows this information. Nobody in the world. So now we need to understand that most likely, when a call between Trump and Putin took place, most likely, and I believe that most likely, the special service of the United States of America, the intelligence agencies of the United States of America, most likely found out the exact place of the president of the Russian Federation. So at least, and right after this call happened, and right after the president of the United States of America asked Putin to stay at the same place for another 2 or 3 hours, right after all these things, Ukraine attacked Russia. So from this perspective, the Russians are trying to tell us that this is not about Ukraine. This is the situation when somebody from the inner circle of the president of the United States of America told Zelensky, or maybe told the Ukrainian special forces or special services, that the president of the Russian Federation is located exactly in this place. So this is not about Ukraine and not about the Russian Federation. This is about the president of the United States of America and his inner circle. Basically, the Russians are trying to tell us that you, Trump, asked me, Putin trying to tell Trump that you, Trump, asked me, Putin, to stay at the same place for another 2 or 3 hours, and for some reason, for some unknown reason, Ukrainians attacked this territory with drones. So which means that Russians have the right to think that that was a trap, that was a trap, maybe even prepared by the United States of America. So this is exactly what the Russians were trying to tell us yesterday in the evening when they began publishing updates about this attack from Ukrainian side, or at least everything looks like this. So not about Ukraine, not about the Russian Federation. These two countries are at the stage of conflict. This is about the United States of America. And this call that was made by Putin to Trump was a call when most likely Putin told not just that we were attacked by Ukraine, but he asked Trump what is happening in your inner circle. How did it happen that Ukrainians found out that me, the president of the Russian Federation, is located exactly in this area? So this is the situation, and this is the biggest scandal that, first of all, ruins not the reputation of Ukraine or Zelensky. This is the scandal which ruins the reputation of the president of the United States of America. So this is the situation. So that is why Russians have the right, legal right, probably diplomatical right, to change their attitude towards the entire negotiation process, to change attitudes to Ukraine itself and to talks, and even to its own position regarding demands that they have in the special military operation. So anyway, let's wait and see what is going to be next. But today Russians once again promised that they will strike back, and they have already found targets that they're going to attack. For example, today the pro-Ukrainian sources stated that maybe Russia is preparing an attack on Ukrainian government buildings in Kiev, or or something like this. Furthermore, we received the report that Russians closed the area around the Kapustin Yar site, the place that Russians used to launch Oreshnik missiles, Oreshnik systems. So it seems that before 2026 comes, maybe even this night between the 30th and the 31st of December, Russians may attack the territory of Ukraine with the Oreshnik system. People are saying that Russians can attack some political buildings or so on, but if you ask my opinion, I believe that if Russia attack Ukraine with the system of Oreshnik, most likely they will attack power plant or something like this. Anyway, let's now discuss the situation on the ground and let's see what is going to be next. And first we're going to talk about this video published by pro-Russian sources. The Russians, by the end of the year, published this video where we can see the Rubicon special group, and here we can see how Russians were attacking deep inside of the territory of Ukraine with drones, how Russians were destroying through the 2025 year lots of energy facilities, buildings, constructions of critical infrastructure. So this video shows us the Russia's capabilities and how the Russians managed to improve their capabilities during 2025. So as you can see, the Russians just with regular drones were attacking very deep inside of the Ukrainian territory. Most likely attacks like this will repeat in 2026. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. During the previous 12 hours, we received lots of updates. According to different pro-Russian sources, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly in the Zaporozhye direction. This is the situation by the end of the 29th of December, when Russians just reported that they managed to improve their positions around Lukyanovska, and by the morning of the 30th of December, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly in the area of the villages of Grigorovka and Richne. So Russians took these territories under complete control, and for example pro-Ukrainian sources published some changes on their map as well, and according to their changes, first sabotage and reconnaissance group of the armored forces of the Russian Federation were discovered in the southern part of the settlement of Richne. So these territories were also captured by Russians, or at least there is a presence of Russian soldiers that was recorded. So Russians continue advancing, and their offensive operation in this area is gaining momentum. As for the eastern Zaporozhye direction, during the previous 12 hours, we received lots of updates. First of all, the Russians, according to neutral mappers and pro-Ukrainian sources, improved their position significantly to the south of the settlement of Gulyai-Polye. So these are the changes on the ground. The Russians managed to establish complete control over the road R85 that goes from the mainland, from the settlement of Palogi in the northern direction towards the city of Gulyai-Polye. So basically, Russians managed to establish complete control over one of the most important logistic lines, and now the offensive most likely will intensify from the Russian side. Furthermore, we start receiving first updates from different villages and towns further in the western direction. In this video, we can see how Russians attacked with FPV drones different vehicles in the area of the settlement of Zaliznychny, which means that the Russians most likely have already begun their assault operation on this area. Now let's move further. And let's discuss the situation in the Pokrovsk-Mirnograd direction, or in the direction of the city of Dobropolye. For example, today the commander-in-chief of the armored forces of Ukraine, Syrsky, stated that calls to withdraw from Pokrovsk and rescue the military are unreasonable. According to him, the key question is where exactly to withdraw: into a clean field, and then what? Retreat again and look for a new settlement. So Syrsky is trying to tell us that Ukraine is not going to withdraw from any position. Syrsky told us that he's not going to withdraw from any town and settlement, and he will fight till the last probably bullet or something like this. According to information we have, and according to different mappers, the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to break through Ukrainian defense and answer the settlement by the name of Belitske. So this information was published by a very reliable pro-Russian source. Furthermore, we start receiving first videos from this territory. In this video, we can see how Russians were attacking with FPV drones positions and forces of the armored forces of Ukraine through the settlement of Belitske. So most likely the clashes currently are taking place right exactly for this area. The settlement of Belitske is a very important settlement. If Russians can establish control over the territory, then Russians will be able to establish a gap, a gray zone, a buffer zone between the cities Mirnograd, Pokrovsk, and the main part of Ukraine. This gap is going to be very useful for Russians to stabilize the situation position in cities of Pokrovsk, Mirnograd to bring additional equipment and then to move further. Furthermore, we received videos from the settlement of Novoshakhova. Here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russia's positions in this area. Based on this video, we have adjusted the map. This is the situation by the end of the 29th, and this is the 30th of December. Russians improved their positions, and the Russians are ready to move further in the northwestern direction towards the settlement of Dobropolye itself. And this offensive operation most likely is going to start very soon. Now let's talk about the Slaviansk direction. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of updates from this area. The Russians continue their offensive operation along MO3 road. These changes were published by different mappers. The Russians are maintaining the lines and moving further along the road towards the Seversky Donetsk-Donbass Canal. As for the city of Liman, during the previous 24 hours, we received a report that Russians control up to 50% of the settlement and that there are very heavy clashes already inside the city limits. But as you can see, as of now, without changing the map, we are waiting for some proofs, for additional and more reliable proofs of this. As for the Kupiansk direction, the situation is like this. As you can see, the most important thing is that the commander of the group of forces West promised that the armored force of the Russian Federation will finish the battle and will finish clashes with the armored forces of Ukraine in this area either in January or in February. So the Russian commander promised to finish the battle for the entire Kupiansk direction within the next 2 months. So let's wait and see, of course, what is going to be next and whether he is able to do this or not. Another important update is coming from the Sumy direction. Today, several pro-Russian sources stated that Russians improved their after they finish the improvement of their positions around the settlements of Grabovsk and Vysoka, began advancing operation further in the western direction along railways in the direction of the settlements of Taraturina and Ryasnaya. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates according to different sources. So this is the situation. The Russians are planning to change their demands, as we discussed during the previous videos, after, of course, this attack on the possible position of the president of the Russian Federation. Ukrainians are denying everything. Zelensky stated during the previous night that everything that was stated by Russian side is a fake. So this is the position of Ukraine. So this upcoming night between the 30th and the 31st of December is going to be very important, because most likely Russians will use this upcoming night to strike back. And that's it for the short video. Military with Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day.